been running from 9 to 5, been biting my tongue for all this time. Won't let anyone cut me short. I was thinking this was the way to go, and you put...
Hello everyone, I'm super glad to welcome you all to another great episode of Unnamed and Unmade, where we talk the walk. Our talk show features inspiring stories from accomplished entrepreneurs. We are in season 1, where we discuss about building your dream venture. Today, we are pleased to have Vasileios, who is a serial entrepreneur and is on a mission to help businesses navigate through challenges and thrive in a tough business environment by applying technology, and also help startups navigate towards success. Vasileios is the founder and CEO of two great companies, MassiveGRID and Seminole International. Both companies are technology companies. The former company is in cloud hosting, and Seminole International is in building custom software solutions. I'll let Vasileios introduce himself and talk more about some of his company's business initiatives, and also how he is kind of serving the community. We are pleased to have you, Vasileios, on our show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. And thank you for that introduction. Like, I need to write it down and I need to put it on LinkedIn. It was great. Thank you for having me. It's great what you do. I saw your YouTube channel and I really liked it. And I see many startups hustling and, it's a very competitive environment, especially technology. And when I see somebody trying to help them, trying to bring people to communicate and provide any feedback that could be useful, I like it a lot, and thank you for the opportunity. And this is why also I'm also doing some mentoring in startups. And I can say a few words about that if that's okay. When I started doing mentoring, it was mostly because somebody proposed, somebody said, hey, like, you have done this and this and this. What if you come and mentor a couple of startups? And in the beginning, I was like, yeah, I would like to help. I would like to do that. And I started mentoring. And the amazing thing that I realized down the road was that the more you talk about you, the more you're trying to help, the more you learn yourself, because you have some experiences, you have some things that you have learned. But if you try to communicate them to people, then you start understanding them better. And also it's a situation that you try to apply what you have learned in different situations. So I would say that I am blessed that I run Seminole International, MassiveGRID, and I'm doing mentoring in startups. And I'm very happy to be here.
That's great to hear. So one of the core beliefs that powers you and you as a talk show and a community, and that keeps us excited about working with entrepreneurs like you, is the fact that we believe that innovation, marketing, and relationships form the basis for the success of a startup. I'm pretty sure you also agree with that. Most forums that talk about entrepreneurship kind of address innovation and marketing. Even Peter Drucker famously said that businesses are essentially, they need to address two functions, innovation and marketing. But we think relationships adding on to innovation and marketing can definitely lead to the success of startups. That's where when we have these quality interactions with entrepreneurs like you, we want to learn about how you are living this day in and day out. So first, we would like to kickstart the discussion by talking about innovation. What would you say is your unique differentiator when it comes to innovation? What's your secret sauce? Maybe we can talk about 7L International in particular. I know it's in the services business, but we would like to know how you're applying innovation there.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think there is a secret sauce. If I could say what would be the most important thing is to keep learning and never stop, to be unstoppable, because problems, challenges, they will always happen. You will always have challenges in front of you. You will always have problems. They might stop you, they might delay you, but if you don't let them, if you find a way, if you don't lose your focus. Winston Churchill said it very correctly. He said, you will never reach your goal if you're stopping to throw stones at every dog that barks at you. Mm-hmm. So I think being unstoppable and always learning is, we could say, it's the secret sauce. In terms of innovation, sometimes we listen to the word innovation and we think, very amazing things. Most of the times, innovation can be a good product market fit that nobody else thought about because there is a market need, and you innovated by creating a product that fits into the market. So it could be as simple as that. Of course, innovation could be something that somebody does in a lab, like nuclear power, things like that. I'm not in this field, so I'm in business. So innovation in 7L is many things through the years, and you always need. 7L International was founded 2007. Mm-hmm. So you always need to change. You always need to innovate. You need to forget what you know and relearn and position the company again and again in a better direction to the market.
I'm sure you have much more nuanced and refined view now about innovation after having run this company for close to 13 years. But going back to 2007, when you started this company, what was your approach to innovation? Because you were building a new venture at that time, you obviously had certain set of competencies that you wanted to leverage to offer something innovative. So what was the thought process like back then?
So it was very early. I didn't have, now I understand way better innovation. I was just, back then I was just in love with technology. I'm still in love with technology. I consider myself an engineer, not a CEO or things like that. Even I ran the companies from the engineering perspective, not management perspective. I think a very innovative service that we are going to release next week, it's going to be a soft launch and then a bigger one, is the startup program I talked about. So I think it offers some innovation on the methodology that can make startups being successful. It's a very hard thing to see that 90% of startups, they fail. So we thought about an innovative program that will package all the lessons learned from all these startups that they are failing again and again. And we know the reasons, like poor product market fit is number one or number two reason. They run out of money. Mm-hmm. Again, number one or number two reason. So we take all these problems and we create a program, a methodology, which is, I think, new, in order to make the startups to be more focused on execution and to be able to learn very fast and very early in the process, to learn what they need to learn. But many startups, they learn too far down the road and then the money ran out. So we have created that innovation methodology, let's say, in order to avoid these problems in startups and to help them.
Do you think, because you work with a lot of clients and you had experience working with them, is that helping you give advice or recommend strategies to different clients when it comes to innovation? You just mentioned experiential learning.
Yeah, actually, it was, during COVID that we had lots of time to think. And I was thinking, we have worked with many companies, and we have done projects with startups, but also we have done projects with spin-offs from larger companies. So I was thinking, I was thinking, what is the common pattern all these journeys have, even if they become successful or if they fail, they have a specific pattern. So I said, okay, how can we describe that pattern as a methodology and avoid all the problems, or be able to recognize the problems very early so we can notify the founding team or the investor or whoever is involved and will be affected.
So definitely, you mentioned different challenges at the very beginning. You quoted Winston Churchill. There are obviously a lot of challenges when it comes to innovation. How would you describe the biggest challenge that you faced when it comes to innovation?
So I think the biggest challenge when you have an innovative thinking is to be focused, because you have lots of ideas, you want to implement them all, and sometimes they are not good ideas. There is no product market fit. It's only product market fit in your mind, and you think, that's great. Sometimes it's good because, for example, the hosting company, I started the hosting company because I didn't want my email to be a hotmail.com email. So I said, okay, I will set up my own email server because I just want to have control, security, and all this. So there is a product market fit there because many people will want to host their emails and their websites. So that's okay. But I believe the biggest challenge in innovating is to be focused, not to get carried away because of the enthusiasm. When you innovate, you have a creative personality, and that never stops. But in order to be successful, you need to manage it, and that's very challenging. And actually, it's one of the reasons startups fail, because they are very creative, very innovating. They forget about MVP, they forget about wireframes, and actually, this is what the program I want to release will do. Like focus them and to be more specific so they can succeed. And then, of course, they can expand. They can add more features.
I keep hearing the word focus from you. I certainly agree with you. During the innovation phase, it's like opening up the floodgates, right? Yeah. You have your creative juices flowing and you see a lot of problems in the marketplace. You want to solve them, which is good. But at the same time, it's also important to balance that with some practicality because you, believe it or not, you're a startup. You have limited resources, so you need to get the execution right. That's where I think your years and years of experience as an entrepreneur will be really helpful in the businesses that you run, for the clients that you serve, and also for the startups that you're engaging with. Building upon that conversation around focus, I know you are someone who truly commits to a certain initiative and you are focused on that. How do you ensure that your team of developers or the people that you engage with also resonate with that? How do you wrap this all around with the culture, and how do you spark that innovative culture in your organization and outside your organization?
I believe the team is always a very important thing, and sometimes it's very challenging, and you need to start from the beginning. I hire for character. I don't hire for skills. Skills is something that you will learn down the road, but either you are an innovative character, you are creative, you are hardworking, or if you are not, by the time you start working, it's sometimes people change, but most of the times you either you are a creative character or you're not. So I always hire for character, not for skills, and especially in technology, skills
Keep changing and evolving.
yeah, anyway, so you can have skills now. After 6 months, you have less skills. If your character is not a character that you keep learning and you keep innovating and you love technology, and whatever new comes out, you test it, you try it, you create an account just to see what's this. I think that I don't do much to inspire innovation. I try to hire the right people. The only thing that I do is that I try to keep them as free as possible so they can have the space to innovate themselves. And I always tell to our team that I want you to see the companies as a platform that will allow you to play with what you want to play. So all of the people that are in both companies, they are excellent characters. They like to try new things. They love technology. So on 7L, they can experiment with software. They can do whatever they want. Of course, we have our projects, but we give lots of freedom, and they test technologies, and they create webinars, either internal or external public webinars. And the same in MassiveGRID, which it's a cloud provider, and they can play with anything they want, like network servers. We have a full lab where they can do whatever they want. So I think one is the character, which is what they have, and the other one is the space and the resources to help them express that innovative character.
That's great to hear. Character and being resourceful and being aware of what kind of resources you have access to and what kind of resources your employees have access to, and kind of defining the play field alongside that. I don't want to get technical here, but I am kind of curious to learn about your unique approach to software development or building offerings and services. This is something that I learned from your website and your LinkedIn profile. So I wanted to understand what is your point of view when it comes to running a software company in a very competitive business environment.
Yeah, it's very, very competitive, and but our approach is a bit different. Our approach is focused not on development, but on the result. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the things that we have we are very successful in is that we are able to understand what the client wants, and to deliver that. We are not focused, how many developers will work on the project, how many billables we'll have. We are passionate about technology. We're passionate how technology helps people's lives. Right now we are here, outside is freezing, and we are able to do this because of technology. And sometimes you forget that you would die if you would be out there without technology. Even fire, I consider fire technology. And another thing that I think we are different in is that I don't consider technology to be an industry. I consider technology to be the tool that helps other industries. So it can be, hospitality industry. So technology can help hospitality industry. Technology can help the health industry. So if your mindset is not that, I'm in the technology business and in the technology industry, and especially my expertise is on the medical sector. So I think this is a mistake. We have a very different approach of being to being very specific on certain sectors. We start from the mindset of we know nothing. So when a client comes and the client is on a specific sector, we start from that we know nothing about your sector. You are the expert. You are in this industry. So we know about technology, but technology is just a tool. So what we do is that we have a specific methodology to get all the information from the client about his industry, then to mix it with technology and give it back so it's 100% compatible with what he does in his field, but now it's enhanced with technology. So this is one way we are different. The other way is comes from the name 7L. 7L comes from 7 layers of OSI model. So when they invented the OSI model, they had a very big problem to solve, the communication problem, how you make, two different systems to communicate. So they broke down the problem into 7 different layers, and they created 7 different groups that people worked on these specific groups, and every group defined what they will do and how they will communicate with the next group. So you have 7 layers that are very well structured from an engineering perspective. And due to this structure, we have today, after 40 years or more, we still apply these 7 layers in telecommunications. Telecommunications today have changed a lot. We have 5G, we have lots of things. But these 7 layers apply still today. So
I like how your approach is extremely client-centric, evolving with the time. But again, the way you operate, it's underpinned by a timeless approach, which is 7L.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing there is that I could say that, if you build it correctly, like the 7 layers of OSI model, so if you structure it correctly, what you want to build, if you think it correctly, if you make the correct architecture, this thing can last forever. But, if you just want to connect to things and you want to do a fast solution, after a couple of years, the technology has changed and this solution cannot adapt. So this is the other approach that we're taking with our clients.
Great. I feel like there is more to innovation than what meets our eyes. So thank you very much for
You're welcome.
talking about innovation.
Vic, you mentioned very early on in the show the 3 pillars we focus on. I like to focus on innovation, marketing, and relationships. We've covered innovation in quite detail. Moving on to marketing.
Time to switch gears.
Yeah. So moving on to marketing, multiple times on this show, we always, whenever we speak to our speakers, they mention customers and how important it is to understand customers, know what the customer wants, maybe try to put yourself in the shoes of the customer. So how would you describe your customer or their story to someone who's maybe not familiar with the business?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. I think there is not one answer because we do lots of things. But if we focus on what we are going to release now, let's say that we don't do anything else and we will just release that startup program in the market. So the client there is the startup team that has lots of anxiety if this thing is going to work or not. They spend 24 hours on their computer, and what we are trying to do there is to help them navigate, to tell them everything is going to be okay. We know how this can be done. We'll show you. These are the steps, and this step is important for these reasons. This step is important, for example, for product market fit. So this is one, let's say, persona of the client. The other the other type of client is startups that they are about to fail. So there are many startups, 90% of startups fail. So the majority of them, when they fail, they run out of money. But there is a percentage, not very small, of startups that they still have money, but they have other problems. So the client there is the founding team that has some resources, but they struggle to execute properly in order to go to the second step, to the next step. So this is a totally different client. The client that is, super stressed, or I have money, but I'm running out of money. I face, the catastrophe in 2-3 months. And the other one is large enterprises, which is totally different from startups, but the same program can apply, because the best way that a large enterprise can try a new idea. Large enterprises, every company needs to change and adapt about every 10 years, majorly. So the best way a large enterprise can change is at first to try the new ideas the startup way. You cannot change an enterprise to try new things. It's very hard. So you can create a spin-off. You can fund it. You can try these things in a very specific program that after 12 months you have either success or failure. And if it's successful, you can absorb the company, or if it's a failure, you can just, you haven't damaged your enterprise. So this is the third type of client that can benefit from such a program.
So you mentioned different types of clients, and each client will have their own unique situation. How do you empathize with that client? How do you make sure that whatever product or service you're offering to them fits their need?
You mean from the perspective of product market fit?
In this case, maybe we can call it client, service fit. So something similar, yeah.
Yeah. So this is very hard, because always you need to. It's a balance. You want to understand the client in order to give you feedback. The only way to understand the client is to give you feedback. The client to give you feedback. So you want the client to give you feedback. In order for the client to give you feedback, the client needs to see something. So you need to build something. And this is not only a challenge for example, for me, this program is like a startup. So the same problem is the same problem all the startups have, and you need to build something to show it to the client, to get feedback from the client, but at the same time, you cannot spend lots of resources to build the full product. And then after you have built the full product, you realize that, the client does not want it. So I just spent $500,000, $1 million, and now what? I don't have any more money. So you need to build enough to get enough feedback, but at the same time, you cannot build too much, because it can be a failure. You can test it and nobody could be interested.
I want to also go back to your initial phase of the journey where you're building out the services organization. It's not easy to acquire new clients, because clients are always asking you the question as to whether you have the experience delivering your solution to clients, or whether you have any proof points that they can rely on before they can commit. So it's like a chicken and egg problem. Until you get the initial set of customers, it'll be very difficult for you to get more customers. So how did you handle that situation from a sales standpoint? And how did you integrate your offering development function with the sales process? How did you navigate that challenge?
I'm still learning. I'm still learning, and always the market changes. So people change, like generation after generation, people change. So all these are Actually, very few things never change. Maybe the OSI model, but everything else changes. So a great way is prototyping. People like to see things, and we must never forget that on the evolution history of humankind, typography and the ability to read is just, a tiny part of the whole history. So we have evolved to see things, to see pictures, to interact with things. So I think that when you want to release a new product or a new service, it's the most efficient way is to go very fast in a prototype. And the good thing today is that there are tools, and these are the tools that we have integrated in our program, that you can go to a prototype very fast and without spending lots of money, actually spending a very small amount of money. So you go with a prototype to the client, and the way we built it is a fully functional prototype, and then you have the other problem. It's so functional prototype that the client thinks that, oh, it's ready. I want to buy it. And then you need to say, no, I need at least, 8 months of development. But I think it's a very efficient way to test the client without describing or try to convince the client. Because if they see a prototype, either they like it or not. And actually, this is why I'm saying that the founding teams need to be focused on 3 things. One is the product design. The product design is very important because the clients always, they decide with a yes or no. I like it or not. It does, 15 things. Okay, I tried it. Did I like it or not? It's so simple. So a prototype will speak by itself. It will be, you show it to clients and they like it or not.
That's a really interesting point. You mentioned about prototyping and trying to make it as fast as possible. And instead of relying on presentations and words, you actually rely on something that's actually a physical thing, or even if it's a virtual prototype, something that the client can look, can see, can feel, can experience. It's much more powerful than
any presentation.
And not to mention, you are also getting data from the client, which you can use to optimize the product. Next time when you're meeting another client or set of clients with the experience delivering that prototype to an earlier client, you can definitely improvise on the offering. So I kind of sense that you have a very offering focused approach where you lead with your technology and expertise and going after clients who kind of value that versus just sugarcoating what you are doing, right? Show things in action and win the clients. So
and I think that today you cannot just try to convince people that they need to buy your product. You need to listen to people, what they need, and you need to give them that, because there are so many dynamics and people have access to so many things that it cannot work the way companies were doing that in the past. This is the CRM, this is the best CRM, this is the best ERP, or whatever other product. People want something that works, and a prototype can give you very fast feedback and very safe feedback, because the problem that the company has, if the company does not get a very good, high-quality feedback, is bankruptcy. The market is not playing. If people don't like your product, no matter how much money you have spent on that, you will eventually, you might be able, to push it with marketing, with advertising, but a competitor will come with better product market fit. So it's going to be a very short journey. I always say that there are three things that are very, very important for companies, no matter if it's a startup or not. One is the product design. The other one is the product market fit. And the third one is the business model. These things are the things that the founding team need to have very close, because it's the startuppers. When you start something, when you start this journey, and you sleep 2 hours per day, and you work very hard, and you put your money in. You do this because you feel something. It's in your mind, it's in your heart. What you feel, it cannot be easily delegated. You can delegate your website. Somebody can make a better website that you can, because they're more experienced, blah, blah, blah. You can delegate the mobile application development. You can delegate many things. You cannot delegate product design because it's in your mind and in your heart. People can help you on that, but you cannot delegate it. You cannot delegate product market fit, because if you delegate it to some marketing company, they cannot really understand what's in your mind and what's in your heart, so how they will match it with the market. And the business model again, this is the easiest thing. Sometimes you can have lots of consultancy there. But again, the way you feel about your product, the way you think people will be interested in that, either you're right or wrong, it will be the way you will also make money from that. So this is the thing. And I believe most of startups, they fail because they spend their time building websites, managing email accounts, all the things that they can delegate, and then they don't have time for the important things. And I think the most important thing we have is not time, is attention. So they need to be laser focused on these three things. The rest can be delegated.
That makes sense. And also these three elements, product design, product market fit, and business model, it's kind of embedded in the character of the startup and the people who found these startups.
Exactly.
And it also helps them to stay grounded, stay focused, no matter what's happening in the external environment. As long as they're confident with these three elements, they can go and succeed. So thank you very much for articulating it really well.
Is there any inspiring story that you can remember where all these three elements came together, and you had that like you had a product that you marketed it to your clients, you had the right business model, you had the right design that you can share with the listeners?
So I can share from MassiveGRID, from the cloud provider. When I started the hosting company, it was in Greece. I was born in Greece, and so when I started the hosting company, I started in Greece, and Greece is a very small country, very small market. So there were certain challenges there, especially when innovation started. So the innovation there was the high availability. We have created an amazing high availability architecture that, when you go to any cloud provider in the world and you say, okay, can I have high availability? They say, yeah, sure. This is how you will build it yourself. While in MassiveGRID, you just create a server, and that server runs on high availability. And you can do whatever you want with that, but it runs on a layer above a layer of high availability. So you don't need to buy 2 servers and put a load balancer and all this stuff. And you don't spend the time on that. So when we created that technology in the hosting company, but it was in Greece. So small market, advanced technology, it wasn't the perfect product market fit. The product was there. The market was not so mature yet. So the product design was good, high availability, and like we were talking about, it was 2014, something like that. So it was early, and the product was there, the business model was there. Actually, the architecture, the way we have built the architecture, makes it very price competitive. So you have a very solid business model, but there wasn't no product market fit because the market was not so mature. So I was, struggling, and I was like, what can I do? I tried to make the site multilingual, so Greek and English. This didn't work. So I think it was a weekend that I set up a WordPress with a theme, and I worked the whole weekend, and I launched the new brand name, MassiveGRID. I launched the site fully in English. The prices were in dollars. So in 9 months, I had already the Greek hosting company for about 10 years. I started it in 2003. So it was 2014. It was 10, 11 years. So in 10 months, MassiveGRID had the same revenue the Greek company had managed to get after 10 years, because MassiveGRID went internationally and approached a bigger market, and many clients in this bigger market, they wanted the high availability services. They understood what high availability means, and they had the need for that.
That's a really smart move.
That's a really good story, and just making that shift, right? You've moved your market, just tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah.
That 1 week you spent with WordPress completely changed.
Oh yeah, old stories. I cannot do that anymore.
Yeah. So we want to slightly move away from marketing. We still want to like.
Can I say something before we move?
Yeah.
Elon Musk has said something very. I super like it. He said, if you want to tidy up your room in 30 days, you will do it in 30 days. If you give yourself 30 minutes, you will do it in 30 minutes. I super believe in that. And there is also the theory from Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law says that the duration of the project will be the time that you allocate to it. So if you say, we need to do this, and how much time do we think we need? We need 1 week. So it will take you 1 week. If you say, okay, we need to do it in 1 day, because the difference is not that you are lazy and you're doing it in 1 week, but the way your brain works, the efficiencies that your brain finds down the road, because you know that, okay, I have only 10 hours, so now I have 8 hours, now I have 6 hours. So you press yourself to find efficiencies that otherwise you wouldn't find it. So I think that it's you need to work, especially in a startup, but not only on startups. I like that way of thinking, that, okay, let's see if we can do it in a weekend. So let's find out. Let's do it actually in a weekend. So
it's not just important to go after goals, but it's important to go after directional and defined goals. And in a lot many cases, it can be defined by the time duration. So totally agree. Yeah. So now we would like to shift focus to talk more about relationships. And I think the story that you shared about how you went international with your cloud hosting service could be a good segue to this topic, because now you have international clients to deal with. You have new relationships to nurture, something that might be beyond your comfort zone, right? Suddenly you have people from other parts of Europe, from the UK, from the US, from Asia, wanting to do business with you, but you don't understand the dynamics pretty soon. So how did you navigate that challenge?
It's one of the most amazing things that I like the most in my business, doing business internationally. because you learn about other cultures, and it's different to learn about a culture when you are friends with somebody, but it's different to learn about that culture when you do business or when you negotiate. And I find that people who are also open to do business with me, and they can be, from like Europe or North Europe or South Europe or Middle East or Africa or Asia. I'm open to do business with everybody. And the people who are also open to do business with people like me, they are also very interesting and very open-minded. So you realize that you have lots and lots of similarities. In the beginning, you would think that, it's a different culture. We are going to be totally different. But you understand that it's a surprise for me to understand that, people who like to do international business, they all think the same. And they all understand that, it's different culture, so you need to be more polite, and I like that. You need to think positively. Because it's a different culture, you cannot take negatively what the other person told you, because it won't work. It's a different culture. You have a problem in communication for granted. So you take everything positively, and that works amazing.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of gray areas, but as long as, like you said, a common understanding between the various stakeholders that are engaging in business, that it won't be always perfect. We need to figure out things on the fly. I think businesses will be able to work together, although they are separated by boundaries, by culture, by identity, etc. So well said.
Any big challenges that you faced when it comes to relationships or dealing with people, both within the company and also with stakeholders and clients?
So it's a very good thing that I have an amazing partner. And I think in all relationships, the most important thing is to be aligned, to be able to see on the same direction, and to have very good communication. So on the other hand, if you see on different directions, there is always going to be a problem. So this cannot be solved. You need to solve the relationship. But if you see on the same direction, everything else, I think it can be worked on.
And that's probably one of the most important relationship is your business partner, because like you mentioned, you'll be building a lot of you'll be building the product concept, the culture of the firm. If your vision doesn't align with that person, then that can be a challenge.
Yeah, it's very important.
I would like to broaden the scope of relationships. You are at a phase in
how broad?
You're at a phase in your career and your life where you also want to engage with the community, give back to the community. That's one of the reasons you started the Startup Accelerator program, which we are very curious to learn more about. So how do you see this relationship? What do you think people who are at a point where they're seeing a lot of success from their business endeavors as an entrepreneur, and we have this whole concept of being impactful in whatever we do. In your case, you want to make it all about the client, be client-centric, solve problems for them. So what can you please talk a bit more about what is your relationship with the startup community or the broader community, and how you are working on some of the initiatives that serve the community?
I think it's... I wouldn't say that I see that as a special relationship. I see every company as a startup company, and the companies need to see themselves as startups. Otherwise, they are going to face big challenges. We see, if you see on the long term, most of the companies, they fail after 50 years. because the things have changed so much and the companies have not changed. Like, I don't know, like 90% of the companies fail after 50 years. So I think with technology, this becomes shorter and shorter. You don't have any more 50 years, maybe you have 30 or 20. So you need to constantly innovate. So you need to be in a startup culture. So I don't think I have, I see the relationship with startups any different. I see with my relationship with anybody that I can work with or help. It's the same relationship, is how technology can help you, and maybe how my experience can help, through the startup program. And it's actually a startup execution accelerator. So we don't deal with, business consulting. We don't deal with these things. We just want to accelerate the execution. And I think that now we are entering in a phase, we are in the beginning of the phase of, it's not what you sell, is how you help. So it's, and it's, will have the same result, but it's not about sales. It's about how you help and how we move forward all together.
So you help startup founders help their clients. Is that a simple way to put it?
Yeah, you could. That, and I want to help startups not to fail. It's like when I see that statistic, 90%.
Kind of breaks your heart.
It's 90% of people with dreams failed. They put their lives, they put their money, they put their parents' money, whatever, but they had dreams. And okay, let's say maybe not all of them. Maybe some of them were, just hobbies, but not many. Like, let's say 80%, they had dreams and they failed, which is not bad necessarily, because you learn from that. But maybe we can reduce that a little bit.
Most of the viewers of our talk show are up and coming entrepreneurs, people who are probably working in the corporate world, or we can also think of students who want to get into entrepreneurship. One thing that is holding them back from pursuing their dream venture is the fear of failure. And we are so happy that you're addressing that. So if a startup is watching our talk show and they are interested about your Startup Accelerator program, how can they engage with you? What's a good place to start?
You mean how they can engage with the program, or because I would like to address the fear of failure thing.
Sure.
It's great. It's so fear is a very, very bad consultant. We saw that during COVID. We see that in every situation that people fear, many mistakes can happen. People fear because they don't understand something. So something is a black box. So it's like we are in this room and it's dark, and we're just afraid because it's dark. So the only thing that you need to do is open up the light. So if you see that everything is okay, then you stop fearing. In entrepreneurship, that is, you need to fail, because by failing, it's like you open up the light. So you get accustomed how it is to fail. Oh, it's like that. So fail. My idea is to fail very fast, fail many times. And you can just build a prototype and fail. That's good. Like, okay, you failed with a prototype. You built a prototype in the weekend and you put it there in the market, and nobody was caring about it. So it's a failure. But it's okay. It was just a weekend. So, but if you hold on to that, if you say, oh, I won't do that because I will fail, then this fear is getting built up. So you're afraid more and more. And it's a saying that I super like it. It says that the master has failed more times than the junior has even tried, something like that. The student has even tried. So you need to fail.
It's kind of part of the process.
Yeah, it's part of the process.
I like how you are also creating that safety net or kind of capping the downside of the failure, because I don't want to fail big. I would rather, like you said, fail fast, fail forward, fail many times, but don't lose it all so that I can still keep pursuing. That's where I think your company is adding a lot of value by telling entrepreneurs that this is how much, but by building a prototype, you're not exposing yourself to great downside risks. And you can also lay out a roadmap where you can start perfecting, iterating on the prototype until it gets to a point where it can meet the market.
Yes,
like
yes. You need to take calculated risks. And so when you're afraid, you need to say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? So the worst thing that can happen is this. But you need to be very sincere with yourself. What is absolutely the worst thing that can happen? So let's say that you already working on a job and you have a side hustle, a startup, and you have put a certain amount of money there, and you're still in the beginning, so it's not lots of money. So if the worst thing that can happen is just to lose a certain portion of money, that it would be okay. It will hurt. It's part of the process, but you are not going to be on the street. Then you need to try it. If you feel like that, but if the worst thing that can happen will affect your life, then it's wise not to do that. You need to find other things that you can fail and have that safety net that you mentioned. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's like riding a bike, like learning how to ride a bike. If you fear falling down, you're not going to learn.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
a
an
good
excellent
analogy.
example. Like the baby that tries. So many people are like, the baby tries to walk and fails, and but the baby stands up again. So you do that many times, and then you learn, like with the bicycle, as you said.
Absolutely.
So one thing we always like asking our speakers is, and you obviously mentioned like you enjoy working with startups, mentoring young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who are just starting on that journey. What advice would you give to your younger self all those years back when you were first entering the field of entrepreneurship or starting your own company? What advice going back in time would you give yourself?
I think it's focus.
Focus.
I think
I also like character that you stress
Yeah.
upon.
Yeah. I think that you need to be very aware where you spend your attention. If you spend your attention wisely, you have certain benefits that get accumulated over the years. So this is what I would suggest to myself.
Stay focused, pursue your dream venture with relentless passion and motivation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Which is, again, it's difficult to be focused when you want to create things. A creative mind cannot be focused. It's always distracted. Like you walk home and you see something and you say, okay, I can build a service with that and I can, help that kind of situation. So then you might go home and, start working on this on paper and making calculations, but you are out of focus on the other
Absolutely.
things. Yeah.
Finding structure amidst chaos.
Yeah.
So Vasileios, it was great having you on the show.
Thank you
We
very
really
much.
enjoyed the chat. We will mention the company's bio and all the information in our YouTube channel and with the video's description for our listeners to take a look. Again, a big thank you from the Named and Unmade team for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's a great thing what you're doing. It's a great thing, and I super enjoyed. And of course, if anybody wants, I'm also doing mentoring. So if any startup that wants to get in contact, they can feel free to do it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It was a fantastic conversation. Thanks again. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, this is
That's the good thing about Manhattan, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Things are very much accessible.
I super like it here. And actually, I was born in a very small town in North Greece, like 50,000 people, something like that, very small, beautiful seaside, lots of fresh fish. I go there every summer. And so it's very easy there because everything is very close. So you can do anything you want during the day. You don't bother, I need to take the car and I need to commute. So when I came to Manhattan, it was like that.
I'm on the show.